Evening, Chelsea fans. Welcome back to another weekend of Chelsea Chat with me, Moose, and JB. Before we kick off, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification and comment below. We've had some really good input from the fans over the last couple of weeks. We'd love to continue that and also get you guys involved in any conversations that you want us to have as Chelsea fans or the fans. So, Jamie, we are currently in an international break, which seems to be quite regular at the moment. So we're going to kick off this week with just a little bit of review around how some of the squad's been doing. It's not that much has happened since then, but we'll go through some of those bits and pieces, and then we'll go into sort of a quarter season review. So how we feel we fared in the first 8 games, 4 wins, 1 loss, 20 goals, 10 conceded, 3 clean sheets. But we'll go through the quarter season review, just looking around how we feel we're fared on that. So Jamie, what are your thoughts on some of our players away from the Chelsea club on internationals? What do you think of their performances?
Yeah, I think obviously Kante scored the winner for France yesterday against Portugal, which is nice to see, especially from a holding midfielder. I believe Ziyech got 2 goals for Morocco the other day, which I think is not very surprising considering his current form. Yeah, and obviously Werner scoring 2 goals for Germany against Ukraine yesterday as well. So he's firing. Obviously, that game was in Leipzig as well. So back at his old stomping ground, getting a couple of goals. Probably feels at home there, but hopefully not too at home because we don't want to see him go back. So they seem to be doing well. I was watching some training videos as well from the England camp the other day, and saw Abraham score a fantastic goal in training. That they were doing like a youth versus experienced teams. So we obviously had Chilwell and Abraham on one team. So the youth team won as well. I think Chilwell scored a banger as well. So yeah, seems like they're all doing well on internationals. Obviously we got Reece James seems to be playing a lot for England as well. So he seems to be quite a popular pick now for Southgate. So yeah, no, it's looking really good for all the Chelsea players. We had that momentum going into the international break as well. So hopefully these performances are going to carry on when they're back next week.
Definitely. And to be honest, I was watching some of the most important news was Kai Havertz's new dog, which I've been sort of keeping up to date with on his Instagram as we've gone along. Me very much in touch with the critical news from the Chelsea squad during this international break. So Jamie, we spoke around our form just before we went into the international break. So Jamie, let me get your thoughts on the first 8 games and your thoughts around our 4 wins, 1 loss, and the draws are not coming up on the screen. So we've had a number of draws as well.
Yeah, it was a very shady start. It was, that game against Brighton obviously got the win in the end, but we looked quite shaky at times. We went ahead. They pulled it back a couple of times, and it was a very close fought game, that one. So you could see already there was a few, defensive issues. And then just rolling through those first few games, obviously the Liverpool game, that kind of died off as soon as Christensen got sent off. Kepa's howler was just not great. And then we had that West Brom game, obviously the 3-3 draw when we come back from 3-0 down at half time. Still hold myself accountable for listening to it on the radio, given my record. So yeah, that from that point onwards, it up to that point we still were looking shaky. Even the Southampton game as well, conceding 3 as well. But then something changed, and that something was a masterclass in goal. Edouard Mendy comes in. Obviously, Thiago Silva started to get bedded in. And all of a sudden our defense just looked impenetrable. Just no one could get through, Champions League, Premier League, no matter what. No one seemed to be able to get through. We only, and up until the Sheffield United game, Mendy had only conceded 1 goal in a Chelsea shirt against Spurs. So, that was such a big improvement, one that we needed so much. And I still can't believe what a fantastic signing not only Mendy but mainly Thiago Silva has been. He has been just unbelievable. And, I pretty much called that early on with the Thiago one before it was even linked. I said,
I think it was in
how about going for
March.
Thiago Silva? Yeah. It was one of the first podcasts I think we did. I mentioned Thiago Silva. And, as I said, we weren't even linked with him at the time. So turned out to be a masterclass. So Frank, if you're listening, call me up in January and I can help you out a bit more if you need.
I think what you can say is, Frank, you're welcome. That's pretty much all you need to say.
Yeah.
So I think let's start with our start to the season, because as you said, there was a lot of people throwing a lot of weight behind us just not being ready. We'd spent a lot of money. Is the pressure of how much money we've spent too much for us? Are we going to fall into the same trap? Have we not filled the gaps? And to be honest, as a Chelsea fan, there was that level of nervousness. There wasn't you're never going to go on game 1, game 2, game 3. What's going to happen for the rest of the season? But there's a level of nervousness where you're seeing Kepa still in goal. Defensively, we're still making the same mistakes as last year. Attackingly, we were looking more dangerous, and that was always an improvement, because last season it was a difficulty to pick having a striker, and we had very little to choose from, and now we've almost got too many to choose from, which is a great dilemma to be in. And then let's start with the Brighton game. It was an unconvincing win, and to be honest, the whole game was stolen by an ex-Chelsea player in Lamperty, where and fortunate for us, that's not been his standout performance. He's had a good number of games up until and past ours, but it wasn't a convincing win. It wasn't something where we thought we were going to walk in 5-0, 4-0, whatever that high scoring game is, just based on the class. Still finding our feet. You then go into the Liverpool game, which it just seemed to have been killed by the referee and Kepa, and that was still showing some real difficulties and gaps in our ability to go and do stuff. And then West Brom, even with the maturity of someone like Thiago Silva, he obviously made his first mistake on his first stage in the Premier League, and it was a little bit embarrassing. I'm very fortunate that we've had a number of other big clubs have more embarrassing results running straight after that. So that one's almost been ignored by the rest of the fans in the league. But that was a worry for us. I mean, we were nervously doing the podcast as we're going through this, and it wasn't a great time to go 200 million. We're not quite there yet. What were your thoughts around that? Where do you think we really stepped up since then?
I think as I said, the defense has just been massively improved. You look at what rival fans kind of were saying even after the transfer window. You've brought in all these attacking players, but you've not done much in defense. You've spent all your money in attack, but you've spent very little in defense. And I was thinking, we have, but we've also addressed the key issues we needed to. As I said, Mendy's been brilliant. I was kind of hoping we didn't sign Mendy. I was hoping we'd go for someone else because, I'd never heard of Mendy before. I didn't have a clue about him. So I was kind of thinking, oh God, this is a risk. In the same way that before we signed Kepa, I'd never heard of him and we went and spent 70 million on him. So I was concerned. Obviously, Thiago Silva, his age, it was always going to be the issue. But we always said we needed that experienced head to come in. And that is exactly what he's done. The left back issue we addressed. We went and got our number one target for that. So we were very clinical and we got the positions we needed and we got players who seemed to be the right fit as well. Obviously in attack as well, we spent an absolute fortune. But it's all young players. It's all flair players. It's players that you just can't say no to because they are that good. And it might take a little while for them to click, but I can already see it starting to click now. In the last few games, probably even in the Southampton game going forward, you started to see that work. Do you know what? I'm really excited to see how much more this right hand side flourishes with Ziyech and Reece James. It's going to be devastating. You've either got Reece James running it down the line and crossing it in, or you've got Ziyech cutting inside and whipping it in with the left. And the combination of that is just going to be devastating to teams. And then you've also going to have, Ben Chilwell running in at the far post to tap some of them in. So it's very exciting, really. Just obviously, if we're feeling very optimistic at the moment because our last few results have been good. But we've got some bigger tests coming shortly. But it has been brilliant, and some of these new signings, they'll take some time to fully bed in, but they're already been fantastic, and we couldn't really have asked for more.
Exactly that, and I think that's the big thing for us is in the first couple of games there was no Chilwell, there was no Ziyech, there was no Silva. His sort of fitness wasn't quite there yet. Obviously, no Mendy, and that's almost a spine. I mean, we knew that from sort of game one, Werner was going to be an absolute steal for us. 50 million seems like we've just got an amazing player on the cheap, to be honest. And then you started to see the other players form around him. I think sort of the only sort of player who is struggling to adapt at the moment is Kai Havertz. And I think that's just finding his right position, because that we haven't quite found that yet. That's the only thing that I would probably say is a negative. But just looking at sort of one of the big things that Frank was having against him is he couldn't pick a starting 11 in the first couple of games. It was very difficult to get any consistency in sort of those, and people were still worried around the Kepa impact to the game. But I think sort of I could quite easily name our back four now as sort of starting 11 based on their form in sort of Reece James, Thiago Silva, Zuma, and Chilwell. And I think sort of the Silva effect is so big because you've got Zuma looks like a different player. He looks like a world beater based on his performance with a mature centre back in Thiago Silva. Chilwell, absolute amazing left back. I think sort of he's going to be a mainstay for a number of years in that space. Mendy is one of those ones where sort of he hasn't got the ability to go and sort of say world beater at the moment, but he's exactly the keeper we need, just a safe pair of hands. In the midfield is an interesting one, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this because it's still it's a bit more difficult to go and pick your middle three and your top three at the moment. I think on paper I could definitely write it down, but actually in practice there's still probably a missing link between both those two. So I think sort of in midfield, Kante is obviously first on my list as always. Mason Mount's been absolutely amazing in that position. I'm going to put Kovacic because I think he's played very well in that position. But I wouldn't necessarily say he's been the best sort of in the midfield as part of that. Even based on the limited number of games, Ziyech and Werner go up top because he's had an absolutely outstanding performance. The fact is he's played 2 games in the Premier League and he's our top assists. I think it was 9 from just the game from Sheffield United. He created 9 goal scoring opportunities.
He was in that game. He was unbelievable. He was just so good.
I mean, he's gone straight into the fantasy team. Werner, and I don't think I put Havertz directly into the squad. I think he's really struggled, and I think what Frank will do is probably take him out of the limelight a little bit now, just to see where he can fit him in, because he definitely earns a place in that space. It's just whether he goes in a more attacking sort of wing position or whether he stays in sort of as a midfielder pushing forward, because he's looked a little bit lost in a couple of games. Don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think the thing about him is that he never looks like he's giving his hardest, but he is. He's just so elegant about the way he plays, and it just looks so effortless what he does. I think he just needs to bed in a bit more with the rest of the team, and I think the only way he can do that is by carrying on playing games, and these connections and these link ups are going to just come off, and once they do, he's going to be unplayable. I mean, for me, I know what I see as our clear starting 11 in my head. I could name it to you easily.
Go for it.
Okay, so Mendy in goal, Reece James right back, Zuma, Silva, Chilwell.
Yep.
Kante holding, Mount and Havertz as the two number 8s, Ziyech, Pulisic and Werner. That's our best 11 comfortably. Obviously, Pulisic has been injured a few times. Ziyech has just come back. And as you said before, we were missing quite a few of our defenders for a majority of the start of the season. So we've not really had the chance to play that strongest team yet. But it'll come, and even with, Werner playing left and Tammy up front, we've still looked devastating as well, because Tammy just seems to have stepped up his game a lot. And every chance he's been given, he's taken. He's played well. He's scored goals. He's ready to fight for that spot and to get into the team. And hopefully he does. I want him to be good enough to show that he should get that spot, which can only be good for us. So this is where that whole competition factor is coming in. And whilst I've just named you what I would say is our best 11, you've still got players like Abraham, Kovacic, Hudson-Odoi, Jorginho. You've got these players that will be fighting to get into the team, and it's just going to push and push and push, and they're going to be pushing each other, all of the way to get that best performance out of each other, because only the players that are playing well are going to get into that team. So it's only a good thing for us. And I think, we spent a lot of money in the summer, and maybe they won't all click straight away, but we have the quality there now. It's just about getting them to click, and it's better that than, having a team of poor individuals that can play well together, but they're not, good enough to go and challenge for titles. So I think we've got a good foundation in place now to really start pushing on.
Yeah, massively. I mean, if you look at our current form for the last 5 games, so ignoring the first 3, win, draw, win, win. So sort of collecting an absolutely amazing amount of points from that. I think sort of it's only Tottenham and Southampton who sort of matched or equaled that. You've got sort of, even if you look at our standings in the league, sort of 5th place, it's absolutely sort of outstanding for where we started. Didn't look like we were going to sort of do amazingly well. 3 points off top, and the run of games we've got at the moment, you'd sort of definitely sort of back us in a lot of these. I think we've got Newcastle next weekend. There's 12:30 kickoff away. Newcastle have had a good run of form. Be interesting to see how
we always seem to struggle there as well.
We do. We've had those
because they always
goals.
Sit back against us, especially at their own place as well. They always just seem to sit and defend with a very, very deep line. So I think again, Ziyech is going to be that man that's going to be vital for us to break them down and get that victory. So hopefully he stays fit and starts that game.
And then we've got Spurs the weekend after. So that's the 4:30 kickoff on the Sunday. That's going to be an interesting one. Spurs are on a bit of a run at the moment. Obviously, Mourinho is definitely going to want to get one over on us just after sort of previous seasons and just his relationship with the club. The fact that we still own his naming rights after all these years.
It's good, isn't it?
It's amazing. I love it. But sort of that's going to be an interesting game. We've got Leeds at home the weekend after, which is going to be interesting because they're going to bring it to us.
Day Leeds.
They have they've had one of those sort of things where they've really attacked a lot of the clubs, but they've really run out of steam. Another Chelsea academy player doing very well there though. Bamford's scoring a lot of goals. Then we've got a relatively hard run of games after that. So Everton away, and Everton aren't having the best of form after sort of their amazing start. We then got Wolves away, then West Ham, and then on Boxing Day, Arsenal, then Aston Villa, then City, then Leicester. So it's going to be an interesting sort of Christmas and January periods because that's probably our hardest run of games in the most.
It's also the time that we tend to drop form horrendously every single year. The Christmas period is when we just play awful. So please, dear God, don't let that happen, because I think we've as we said we've had a good start, and I think we've positioned ourselves in a good place that we could put in a title challenge if we push on and get some big results. You know, if we beat the teams that we're meant to beat and we don't lose against the other big teams, then we're going to be putting ourselves in a very good position to fight for the title, and even, you know, pick up some wins against the big sides as well, the other big sides. So yeah, that Christmas period is going to be massive for us. If we pick up enough points, we'll be looking very strong. But if we have our usual Chelsea Christmas blues, then we're gonna struggle.
I think sort of, especially if you look at our current form of games. So the Newcastle game next. If we look at Leicester, Tottenham, Liverpool, who are all in the top 3 spots, they're all playing each other, and Tottenham are playing Man City. So it's going to be real potential for those 3 to drop points, and us potentially gain some, which I think will be amazing. I think sort of then sort of us being able to sort of get to that top spot and continue that run of form is going to be massive for us. Just to sort of build that confidence, because everyone's having a weird season. And I know that that's because of lockdown and no fans in the stadiums, but City, Arsenal, United, all really struggling. And then seeing some outstanding sort of performances from the likes of Southampton, from Aston Villa, from obviously Leicester, but that's always expected nowadays. Everton having a mixture of, they've had a run of 3 losses on the bounce, after sort of watching James Rodriguez absolutely come and tear it up for the last couple of games. So I think there's a real opportunity there. There's not a standout sort of runaway leader at the moment. Last season,
yeah, I think Liverpool, you know, if you actually look at their results, the only real setback they've had has been the Villa game, which obviously was quite a ginormous setback, but that's the only one really. The other ones, you know, I think they've drawn to City. I think they draw with United as well.
Yes. What's interesting is obviously Liverpool have lost Van Dijk. They've now lost Joe Gomez for the season.
And Salah's going to be out for a couple of weeks as he's had a positive test. Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting because you look at where they've struggled in previous seasons is when their defensive backline's been poor. And they've got limited options in the middle, sort of the centre-back position at the moment. You've got Matip and then youngsters, and quite a congested run of games after that. So they're going to have to invest in January just to sort of fill some of that gap. But it's a great opportunity for a lot of other clubs to steal the march. I wouldn't rule them out. Tottenham are having a run of games. City are having a very strange season at the moment. They just seem very strange. Like, sort of, considering they've invested quite a bit in a centre back, they just don't seem to have cottoned on. I mean, I'm loving where United are having their poor run of forms. It's, to be honest, just a matter of time for Ollie to leave, in my opinion.
I think if they didn't beat Everton last weekend, I think he might have been on his bike. But they got a good result there, so he might get himself a little bit more time.
I think he'll be gone by the end of the season in my eyes. Arsenal are having a poor run of form. After starting the season positively, doesn't seem like that's working. So it's going to be interesting. I think what we've said, from sort of to recap over the sort of the area of the first quarter of the league, we started poorly, but there were reasons for that, and we've just seen positivity come from there, and good dilemmas being thrown Frank's way, and the fact that they've got a sort of plethora of talent to go and choose in all positions. They're sort of, I think the only place you could probably say is sort of in the back four. There's not a huge amount that sits behind them, but there's not a worrying amount that sits. I mean, I can't wait until we start getting into the latter parts of seasons, and depending on where we are, I want Czech to play a game. I want Czech to play.
Oh God! I saw he was training the other day. He had the full kit on, and he was doing some of his goalkeeper training. I was thinking, God, I'd love to have him back in there. I know Mendy's doing well, but just just for the sake of old times, you know.
I just
I'd
want,
love
I
to see
want
him
to see him in goal for one more game, even
Yeah.
if he comes on for like the last 10 minutes.
Yep,
That's what I
that would
want.
be amazing. If we win the league, he comes on for the last 10 minutes of that game, gets himself a medal in the process.
Of course he does. I love it that he's sort of definitely doing new player dealings and might play as well.
No, we don't need another third choice goalkeeper.
It's sort of you're walking up and you've got someone like Emerson. He's like, I don't think he'll be playing next week. Why?
Yeah.
Can't say. That's all so we therefore look forward towards the Newcastle game. As we said, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. It's not going to be a rollover, but I think we'll have the mustard to it. As long as we can put pace against them, I think Newcastle are going to really struggle against that. And I think we've got that as Ziyech. I'd like to see Hudson-Odoi if Pulisic is not fit. Play him a bit more. Keep Werner in the middle and then see if Tammy can come on as a sub just to change it up. But from my eyes, it's a nice place to be as a Chelsea fan at the moment, and there's not many other fans who can say that. It's looking positive. I think we'll have another review in a couple of weeks' time. But look forward to sort of getting the comments around who you think your favoured 11 are. Any updates around who you'd like to see us sign, anything you'd like to see us do in the meantime. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. You stay classy, Chelsea fans.